Welcome back. All this math, this is Professor Parker. We're on Eureka, grade 6, module 4, lesson 9, example 6. We already ran through examples 1 through 5. We're on example 6 now. Let's read the question. It says, how would you write an expression to show the number C, right? C is a variable, it's a letter. So actually, clearly it's not a number, right? The number C being subtracted from the sum of A and B, all right? Now, this is a little more involved. Let's read it again. How would you write an expression? So we know we're looking for an expression, not an equation, but an expression to show, or an expression that equals rather, is when we say to show, that means it's equal to, or it equals this. The number C, so we're dealing with the number C, being subtracted from the sum of A and B. So when we deal with this, right, we want to basically translate this, because again, math is a language. Math is a language. We got to treat it as such. So we want to translate this sentence into a mathematical expression. And also that brings us to the value of mathematical expressions and the value of algebra and the value of math in general. You see this long sentence, right? All of this, when we translate this to an expression, you're going to see how short that expression is. And I want you to sit and just ponder and just think for a minute like, dang, wait a minute. This sentence is real long, but the expression we came up is real short. So now, don't you see like the efficiency of mathematics and how math is much more efficient, where you could say a whole lot by writing a little bit, right? So in the English language, we had to write all of this. Whereas in math language, we're going to knock it out in like a couple of letters and a couple of plus and minus signs, right? I'm going to show you. So first off, let's look at what we're working with. So we're working with, let's break this down. An expression to show the number C being subtracted from. That's an important phrase, subtracted from. All right, subtracted from. So that means there's a minus sign. All right, but it says subtracted from, right? It doesn't say minus. It doesn't say the difference between. It says subtracted from. So that means we're not going to do C minus anything. That means that whatever this is, we're going to minus C. We're going to do this minus C because it's subtracted from. Does that make sense? It's being subtracted from, right? It's being subtracted from what? From this, the sum of A and B. All right. So let's see. The sum of A and B, right? The sum of A and B. Now, what does the word sum mean? The word sum means the result you get when you add things together. The sum is what you get when you add things together, right? That's what a sum is. All right. So now the sum is when you add things together. So what am I adding together? I'm adding together A and B. Now A and B are letters. So we can't come up with an actual single sum because they're letters. We can't add letters, but we can show them being added, right? We can add numbers together like 1 plus 2 is 3. But we can't add A and B, but we can show them being added by writing them as a phrase A plus B. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say the sum, I'm going to show the sum of A and B, right? The sum of A and B looks like this. We got A plus B, right? Now, whenever I see the sum of anything, I like to use parentheses. We don't need to use parentheses, but it's a habit. But it's not going to hurt us if we use parentheses. But we don't have to. In some expressions, you have to use parentheses, or else what's the consequences of not using parentheses? In some expressions, you'll get a different answer between using them versus not using them. In this situation, what we end up with, we would get the same value. When I say a different answer or a different value, that means if I replace the letters with numbers. If I replace the letters with numbers and I work out the math and I do the math with the parentheses, I'm going to get a certain number for my answer. Without the parentheses, I'm going to get a certain number for my answer. The number is going to be the same. The answer is going to be the same, rather. So that means that it didn't matter if we had the parentheses. In other expressions, right, if you don't use the parentheses, you're going to get one answer if you use numbers. If you do use parentheses, you're going to get a different answer. That means the parentheses really matter. All right, so just keep that in mind. All right, so we got the sum of A and B right here, right? Now, C is being subtracted from the sum of A and B. So that means C is being subtracted from this. Subtracted from this. So if it's subtracted from this, subtracted from means you do minus, but you do C after that. Because I'm subtracting C from this. Again, I'm subtracting C from this, right? I'm subtracting C from this. The quantity, and this is called a quantity. When we have an expression inside parentheses, we call it a quantity. So we got the quantity of A plus B minus C. C is being subtracted from the sum of A and B. All right, quantity A plus B minus C. That's how we would write it. So they asked me how I would write it, right? That's what Eureka did. They asked how I would write it. This is how I would write it. The quantity A plus B minus C. Now, some people would say, well, what about without the parentheses? Without the parentheses, it'd be A plus B minus C. Now, let me prove to you why the parentheses don't really matter. Even though I like parentheses. That's just my personal preference. That's just how I get down. Let's say I gave values to each of these letters. So let's say that I said A equals 1, B equals 2, C equals 3. Where am I getting these numbers from? I just made them up. I'm just making them up. They're arbitrary. You can pick any numbers you want if you want to do this exercise, right? Now, here's the thing. If I substitute or plug in these numbers where these letters are, and I get a certain number when I do the math out for this expression, and then I plug the numbers in this expression and I get the same number, that means that the parentheses didn't matter. But if I get different numbers, then that means that the parentheses did matter, because the fact that the parentheses was there changed the value of the answer. So let's do this. Let's see, A plus B minus C. So that's 1 plus 2 minus 3. What does that equal? What's 1 plus 2 minus 3? Now, if I follow order of operations and I work from left to right, 1 plus 2 is 3. 3 minus 3 is 0. All right? Now, actually, I should have did this. 1 plus 2 is 3. 3 minus 3. So it's still going to be 3 minus 3, right? Here, order of operations. It's still going to be 1 plus 2 minus 3. So 1 plus 2 is 3. 3 minus 3 is 0. So you see we got the same number. We got the same number. That's why it don't make a difference if you put parentheses or not. It don't make a difference. All right? It don't really make a difference. All right? But anyway, these are both good answers. These are both good answers. The quantity A plus B. Why do I keep saying quantity? Because when we write expressions or numbers or terms inside parentheses, we call that a quantity. 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 That's what that is. So the quantity of A plus B minus C, and then A plus B minus C. You know what I'm saying? So that's example 6, lesson 9, Eureka, grade 6, module 4. We'll be back for example 7.